Lee Kuan Yew said, "Don't you dare demonize the word profit."
Boom.
Today's headline, and it's literally today's headline because it's by Today Online. Government proposes disabling social media access to harmful content as part of new codes of practices on online safety. My question is the government overstepping? Ooh.
Wow, I think you need to...
Yes, I couldn't even process half of that. Government say what?
Wait. So what's classified under harmful?
Checks and balances.
So there isn't really they're talking about like sexual harms, self-harm, public health issues, public security, racial or religious disharmony or intolerance.
What? So no more porn?
What?
But it was already blocked already though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. What am I talking about?
No more Twitter.
I like how they have a very half-ass effort on porn.
Because they know.
They know.
Because they also need.
SingPass is such a powerful app. They know. They just want to do a token. Hey, don't watch porn, not allowed.
Conspir.
Because they know that the country, no matter what, right, has liberals and conservatives, and the fact that they still have majority of votes, right, means that they have to appease the conservatives without pissing off the liberals. Let the liberals do what they want, but show the conservatives that something is being done.
Or everybody just want to jack off.
Yeah, I mean,
what the f*** we've seen those, yeah?
you go to a government hospital, you do a fertility test. You think they give you magazines?
No. They give you Wi-Fi.
They give you Wi-Fi.
No, why? What about your
No, they have been-
imagination?
No,
I also like-
money. Imagination takes time.
Who decide this though?
No, it's a recommendation.
Yeah, so basically the MCI said at a press conference that they are proposing these two things lah. So one thing is that social media services that have a large reach or are considered high risk are to have processes to enhance safety for all users. This will include content moderation mechanisms and community standards. And the second proposal is for IMDA to be able to direct social media services to disable access to specified content.
So TikTok will be blocked lah.
Yeah, lor, like that. It's
No,
like,
specified
porn,
content.
Oh, specific content.
To be fair, this is not new. Every major social media platform have strong moderation team that if you self-harm and all that stuff, nudity, hate, they would censor them anyway. I think they are trying to do this to make it legislation, perhaps one day, so that they can call Google and enforce that this is not done, as opposed to Google just say, I try my best.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But then under Reddit, right, the first comment is just are we becoming China, and people wonder why we're not part of China. So it's the whole censorship conversation, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Do people really want to watch self-harm though?
No, as in, it's not just that. It's like you
Slippery slope.
saying stuff that might be considered like racist or like religious disharmonying, or intolerance can be censored also. Then where does free speech
most
go?
of the time, the problem with all of this is that it's so broad.
Yeah.
Like the terms they use so broad, right? Then
Yeah.
they can. It gives them the freedom to do whatever, which is every time what people are afraid of, right?
Yeah, someone also
Then
asked-
If
they're
they
just
don't
gonna
make it
control
too
everything I
broad,
see.
then you get like US kind of things where there are laws and protections. However, the loopholes are very clear.
Yep.
There's clearly disadvantages to what they think is freedom of speech lah.
But to be fair,
Actually, Singaporeans complain about freedom of speech a lot. It was never guaranteed. Right?
Oh.
But because we are very influenced by Western media, so
Yeah, but it's like no one like what about my freedom of speech? Like what about it?
Yeah.
Nobody guaranteed it. What?
yeah, and like one in support of this comment was that like it actually was the episode that we recently did, like the stupid TikTok challenge where like people are jumping in front of a moving truck.
Yeah.
Do you not agree that some form of intervention is required? Because like kids are seeing this and it's
Yeah.
turning into a
Exactly.
trend. Then should this not be like moderated lah?
but then it's also the opposite lah. If we report it, then some kids who are thinking of doing it will see like, oh shit, I could die if I do this stupid challenge, and then they don't. Versus we just keep it quiet, and then some idiot kids just go and try on their own because they find the trend. Like,
So you're for evolution.
yeah, hell yeah, since the beginning, bro.
That's what's been happening though.
Since the beginning. Okay.
No, but I think like if you look at like US like 2 years ago with like Trump, right, and then how he was like spreading misinformation about what is actually a COVID cure, and then you're actually drinking like bleach and stuff like that. if there was no intervention for that, then people would actually believe it. Half of the nation would
People
believe it.
did believe it.
And then they would take it, but then there should be some level of intervention to make sure that this doesn't get disseminated.
But then what's the difference if this the opposite, where you hear of a vaccination and then before people even do any research, they just say how can they produce this vaccination that quickly, this vaccine so quickly, and blah blah blah, right? And they are not even, they are questioning doctors and professionals, right? So at the end of the day, right, I feel like you have to just leave it to the audience and the consumers, like for the most part, like you control so no use, right? Then now you start to question what is the right thing and what's the wrong thing. Leave it to the end user to decide lah.
But no, it's currently not decided by end user. It's currently decided by tech algorithms.
That's the thing.
And because the algorithm is optimized to, so this actually has nothing to do with us. This is actually to do with creating power to enforce tech companies.
To keep the Googles, the Facebooks in check.
But hasn't this already been like, there's a lot of back and forth between the American government and like Facebook and whatnot?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Singapore government has no power. So when Zuckerberg have to answer to the American Congress, Singapore very keenly watch law to see what was the result of the outcome, because the rest of the world only wait law. Singapore has no enforcing ability. However, if this becomes legislation, then people can say that if you want to operate in Singapore, for example, the equivalent is a bank. Not any bank can just come to Singapore. You need MAS license, right? In order to operate as a bank in Singapore, you have to, for example, adhere to our regulation and insure your deposits with SDIC to make sure that no matter what happens, if you lose people's money, that a certain sum of $50,000 or something like that is insured. So it's the same thing with tech companies. You come here, don't with us. If we tell you that this one must be taken down, then take it down lah. The fear here is the same as POFMA. Whether we silence the opposition.
Yes, the people are mentioning it here also in the thread.
Yeah.
So they're talking about like, but who is the one that determines what is harmful content? Who is watching the Watchmen? There's a big question lah. There's like I'm seeing in most of the comments here.
What would be a good watcher of Watchmen? Isn't it the people? Then don't the people decide it over
elections?
Or what if it is like a site that you can go to, right? Kind of like a crypto ledger, right? That you can just see like what are like headlines of like what got blocked. You know what I mean? So you cannot see it actually, but you know what it is.
That's a good idea.
Okay, we will make it.
Sure. No lah, but okay, here's me playing devil's advocate, right? Everyone wants freedom of speech, but isn't ignorance bliss? You look at US where people are so frustrated. I'm a Democrat and like, why can't the other side of the aisle listen to us and see our rationale? Why can't Republicans listen to us? And Republicans are like, why are liberals so stupid? Why can't they see it from our point of view?
Libtards.
Right? As opposed to a country where, okay, maybe there's some level of censorship, but you create almost a uniformity of this is the way, and then you don't have that kind of conflict, and you just live ignorantly.
Because communism is also like that, I think.
The reason for this, right? The reason for this government's move in the first place is to protect the people from what exactly?
They just talk about like, they just classify these things as online harms. So I think like that would propagate people to go and do harmful
trends,
things.
What? Yeah. To be honest, they're cutting wrist thing. They're slicing your wrist thing.
Or jumping in front of it.
Because
I feel like in many extents there is a trend.
Right.
Yeah.
No, because there have been like but then you see these type of things happen whether or not there is social media and access to this kind of thing. Like when we were in primary school, secondary school, so when like the emo phase, and then people like fucking cutting us. Before that, I also don't know what. But then it's because of that wave, right?
Yeah.
And that cultural like, phenomena or whatever. Then it sparks.
No, but you look at what makes a popular kid popular today.
Yeah.
Social media.
So then, like the fact that you brought up kid, right? To me, it looks like we should be regulating, by age. Or by a specific,
right?
Like we segregate by like with the different types of like demographics. So obviously up to a certain age, right? No social media to me is like okay. Like why should you have access to social media? You don't need this. You need to learn how to be a fucking human being first. Or restrict.
Until what age you think?
I mean, if you can smoke and drink and at 16, then sure. But I've never been a fan of like a set age. I've always been a fan of let's test the human being and see where they're at in terms of certain levels of
so everybody gets different levels of license.
Yeah lah.
That's impossible for rules.
Imagine someone takes like until 30.
It's just an No, it's
I
one
haven't
more
passed yet.
paper. It's one more common sense paper or some kind of test, psychological test or whatever.
But would that set apart, like, would that segregate in a sense or end up in like a involuntary discrimination based on the access to information that you have?
But if you're a dumbass that's going to kill yourself, it doesn't matter what I show you, you're going to kill yourself. To me lah.
No,
That's
correct, but you are looking at this on a micro level, right? But it has to be seen as a
yeah, so on
populous level.
so
right?
broader first is we try to protect them first, and upbringing plays such a huge part, right? Your developmental years is so important. So let's try to clean up that part first, and then after that then we give you access, and then you go and do whatever the you want already. But at least we try to bring up somebody in a safer environment first.
Wait, sorry, to answer your question, so what they're trying to prevent is things that can propagate harm towards yourself or end up harming others. For example, endorsing acts of terrorism, extreme violence, or hateful acts against certain communities, as well as encouraging suicide or self-harm that destabilizes your own physical or mental well-being.
Right.
I think that's
Okay,
fair
so
enough.
here's the idea. I would like to combine yours, right? So we do this in two folds, right? The first one is to keep tech companies accountable. Because right now, if their moderation team they don't hire enough, a country, an entire election pays for your lack of moderation, right? Or a generation of children pays for lack of moderation. So so that one is of business. So at the end of the day, they basically can say that you didn't 14 counts this year. I either kick you out of my country, I want to fine you $100 million. Then this $100 million will go to the tote board, and the tote board will administer it for children fund children homes and whatnot, right? Cool. The other one is that who checks the checker? So if it's government used, then I do agree that you should go to a website in which if you are above a certain age, you can view with your SingPass.
So then how does that go back to if I already consume the content, unless we are assuming that the content does cause me to either harms me or causes me to harm
No, I
others,
think
right?
if you are looking for the content, you will probably find it anyway, right? It's algorithm that is fed to you.
It's to prevent you from discovering these things.
Yeah, it's like you don't scroll a whole day and then you see 7-8 people cutting themselves, and you know people that you look up to that cut themselves.
Yeah.
And you don't get that on scroll. You want to find, you go and find as a directory. You make it onto that directory.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it won't be like the government won't do this out. Won't be for this lah. The worst thing they can do is political intent law. Right?
Or not just that, like maybe you're tired of life and then suddenly something comes to you and you're like, oh my god, I completely relate to that, and then actually it's radicalization and then you become radicalized into a terrorism group. Like obviously I'm skipping some steps, but that is really quite dangerous in terms of discovery through the algorithm.
It's national security / election is one hand, and then the other hand, it's already being done. The cutting yourself, the jumping, the stupidity and whatnot, that's already being done by tech companies. It's just unenforceable. You cannot find them if they don't do it well. Yeah. So that one is just keeping them accountable. On the other one, it's what if the politicians use it for politics?
So
that should
then
be
would then the
visible.
key issue be the algorithm? Like obviously all these tech companies and these platforms that we use, right? They are designed to keep you there stuck in your feedback loops, right? No, the reason why it's designed like that and it's a loop of things that you're already searching for is because it's trying to keep you there.
Yep.
So and we already know that is extremely horrible for humans.
It's also done a lot of
It's
good lah.
addictive, sure, but if that's the harmful aspect of content based on the platforms, then why not introduce a policy that prevents organizations from using these algorithms?
No, I don't think the algorithms are inherently bad. I don't think they make the algorithms such that they will detect that you seem to be prone to suicide, so they give you suicide content. I feel like you look at the algorithm as a whole, right? I think they can explain to you hand to heart, right? It's a matter of if you watch this, you will like related contents. AI have cropped their related contents, then they continue feeding it to you because people that watch this also like this. Then people that like this also engage with this. So it's, if you think about it in a sphere of what we operate in, right? If you watch the Daily Ketchup, then you will want to watch other podcasts lah. You know what I mean? So if you are a podcast watcher, you will get fed podcast ma.
Yeah,
which
correct.
is the same thing ma.
But then the point of that is to keep you stuck and addicted to their platforms. So if that is the goal, because they want you to stay on the platform so that they can generate greater views, advertising. At the end of the day, it all leads to money lah. Not good lah, for money lah, right? But is that what we need from this technology? Is that what we need from these platforms?
But are we against profits though?
They are not struggling in terms of profit, right? And
But we cannot demonize profit, what?
but to what extent though? Like to what extent should we allow profit making
Yeah, at
that
what
it
cost?
becomes detrimental to our own health?
So if let's say we take away algorithms, or like certain companies are built on algorithm. ByteDance's best companies, like TikTok and Toutiao, this other Chinese app aggregator, are built on algorithm. Like the entire product is the algorithm, not the ability to comment, not filters, because all this you can buy those, right? But what is their tech is completely the algorithm, and we are interfering with innovation and profits, which we cannot. Lee Kuan Yew said, "Don't you dare demonize the word profit."
But then we look at the end
That's
use.
exactly the pace at which
No, but
it's
then it goes one circle, it goes one circle to see like at its end use, right? Is it beneficial to society or not? And if it isn't, then is there a area for concern?
Yeah.
Like, do we then need to relook at it, and what is the use of this algorithm for?
Which
Yeah.
is where I think this legislation comes in, because there needs to be a balance between the good and bad of the algorithm. And so if the bad of the algorithm is that people might get self-harm or harm others kind of content, then we try and regulate that so that the other good of the algorithm stays.
I think there are countries that also, like you said, look, weigh the pros and cons and realize cannot. And you cannot f- with a company's proprietary tech, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not inherently trying to fuck you up or make you stupid. It's just trying to feed you things that you might continue watching to the end, which is inherently, once again, not wrong. Then those countries just go ahead and ban TikTok completely.
Yeah, but you also don't want to be business unfriendly also. Then like no innovative company wants to come to your country also after that.
So interestingly, MCI has actually reached out to these like social media platforms, right, to kind of like consult them, because we are still in a very early stage of this proposal. It's not saying that it's going to happen. Yeah, but so they are consulting these companies, and like their response is kind of I mean, at least for Facebook, it's very characteristic of what Facebook would say, which is basically, we welcome dialogue, but we want to respect these people's privacy and still promote autonomy. So basically, we care, but we don't care. And then TikTok says that we care. They share the same commitment as the Singapore government, while YouTube and Twitter decline to comment.
Like, to me, they're like, what this looks like is we are not solving the root problem, and the root problem is like, at least where this conversation has led is towards the algorithms that these
No, or it's the
platforms are
root
built
problem,
on.
not education. Like,
No, because
in order
I
for
can
the end
educate you
user,
and you can be the smartest motherfucker, right? But you are addicted to TikTok because it's on a deeper level. It's fucking if they're using psychological methods, right, to keep you addicted and hooked to shit like that. So over time, it will just like make you dumber and dumber. Like,
No, but
whether
you
you're
being
smart or not, you
aware,
cannot defeat that. Right?
you being aware of these things, these algorithms that is happening, right, lets you be able to take that step back, versus if you don't know, you're just feeding into it non-stop, right? And then if we talk about if at any age we are going to allow anyone total access to social media, the end user still needs to be able to discern for themselves,
Which is why at the start I said it should be just the end user gets the freedom to decide, and we shouldn't have this lah. But if we really wanted to try and solve problems like this, which is harmful content, then it's going back to in the first place, why are the apps like this? Like, why is it that when I Google, like, will it be difficult if for example, if I'm starting to search for like self-harm methods and this kind of thing, right, that the platforms then will give me counter arguments or alternative perspectives and articles that talk about why you shouldn't harm yourself. Like, if I'm going down, we don't even need to talk about self-harm, right? If say you are going too far down a specific rabbit hole of being maybe, for example, too liberal, and then they will show you the other side. So you get to understand both ways. Like, one of the, like, I can't remember who said this, but if you believe in a certain thing, right, one of the core things you must do when you're researching is to go and Google the exact opposite, the counter argument, so that you understand both sides as much as possible, and the nuances of the whole conversation, and not just like what's it called? Like, you don't just
go down your own echo chamber.
Echo chamber, correct? Yeah.
But do you all think content warnings work? Like, it already exists on Twitter, right? On a lot of platforms actually, that this is sensitive content, that I just click show me anyway.
It's a fucking clickbait.
I'm more interested to see what it is because of it. Yeah.
Sometimes it turns out that it's not sensitive at all, then I'm very disappointed.
Yeah.
And there are companies now that's trying to put disclaimers and word it like clickbait.
This is done by a professional, please do not replicate this.
No, like
Not for the
Can they drink
faint-hearted.
beer? Like, a lot of beer.
like don't watch if you're afraid of blood.
It's a challenge.
It becomes a challenge.
Oh, that's just you. It's just, everything in life is just someone wants to compete.
It's like when you watch porn, they say, try not to come.
Try not to laugh challenge.
That would be a better example.
Does it work?
I can neither confirm nor deny. No.
Thank you for watching today's episode. If you enjoy what you watch, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode.
That's what happens when you watch too much content.